So, in this video, we're going to see the solution for our little Sauron or League of Legends thing where you get into range, it aims and shoots at you. And if I stay in range, you'll see that it automatically re-aims every time and re-shoots every time it reloads. This is already pre-made, right? I made this before the thing, so you're not seeing me figure it out on the spot. But these programs are getting complicated enough that me trying to figure it out on the spot sometimes might make a video where I'm just kind of like huffing and puffing and it's not as valuable. There'll still be a couple of those. I'll still, show my vulnerability of like, I don't know everything right away. You got to figure it out still. All right. So that being said, now let me show you how I know everything, and I've already figured this out because I made this before. So start out, first things first, by making a tower. It's just a rectangle. I stored it in a variable because this is where I count up. I store, how long has it been since I shot so that I can check to reset the red orb. And then over here, I made the player as a little blue arc, and I gave them a velocity x, or change in x and a change in y value. And then finally, I made that bullet. That's that red orb that the tower is going to shoot out. It's a circle, and that one also has a change in x and a change in y variable property to store how fast it should be moving in what direction. Okay, let's kind of just keep moving forward. I'm just going to go from top to bottom, even though maybe that doesn't make the most sense. Yeah, let's go from top to bottom. These comments are all right. I probably should make them better, but I'm not like writing code for Google or something like that here. No one else is going to see this. I'll explain it to you right now. I'm done talking. Let's go. So on step, we're just going to start by counting the amount of time that it's been since the shot was fired. Or really, it's just always counting time up. So we're saying the tower's shoot count plus equals 1. It's always just counting every frame, how long it's been, just holding that into a value. We'll see where that comes from in a moment. Actually, we'll see that right now. So now we're going to check, all right, if the tower's shoot count is greater than 100, what I'm going to do, so maybe I'll write the comment here, if it's been long enough, I'll reset the bullet. So if it's been long enough, I'll reset the bullet. So if the shoot count is greater than 100, I'm going to set the bullet's speed in the x direction and speed in the y direction to 0, so it's not going to be moving anymore. And then I'm going to set the bullet back at the top of the tower. So the bullet center x, I'm setting to the tower's center x. The bullet center y, I'm setting to the tower's top, and so that'll get us to have the bullet right back where it belongs at the top. So that's our reset part of it. Over here, I just have in the on step the code that makes the bullet and the player move, right? The player's center y is always going to be updated by its current change in y, its current velocity. Its center x will be updated by its current change in velocity in the x. Same thing with the bullet. I started with y and then x. Maybe I should just fix that really quick because I kind of like putting x first. So yeah, and the bullet, same thing. It's going to update to be moving in whatever direction I want it to move in. This is something from unit, I just checked a moment ago. I think it's unit 6. Yeah, special types of motion. That's where that comes in. Very, very valuable. Very, very valuable. I highly recommend watching that video, going through that exercise again, getting to move things in directions using velocity. Super cool. You love it. Over here was some just debug code that I'll get rid of, just checking where the bullet was because it wasn't moving where I wanted it to be. And then let's see. This is where checking like, is the player, or rather, if the player is too close to the tower, shoot, we will fire. All right, so what we're checking is, all right, if the distance between the player center x and center y to the tower's center x and tower's bottom, so I'm taking the player's center point to the bottom of the tower, if that distance is less than 100 and the tower's shoot count is greater than 100, meaning we've waited, it's shot, it's been long enough, now I know that it's reset, well then I can shoot again. So if I'm close enough and the tower is ready to shoot again, then I will call my little custom shoot function. And the shoot function takes in a starting point that something's shooting from and a target that it's going to be shooting to. And we'll see how our shoot function works in a moment. Let's keep going here. On key press, or here, maybe I should move this on key holds and on key release to be next to each other, and we'll deal with shoot at the end. This is just how I have the player moving. You could do this in different ways, but I'm doing this way. So on key, maybe I should even put on key holds before on key release. So on key holds, oh, this is taking it from move player with arrow keys. I copied some code from my slime volleyball to get this to work a little bit quicker. But on key holds, if I'm holding down the A key so I can move with WASD, or really just A or D, if the A is in keys and the player's left is greater than 0, so we're not going off the left side of the screen, then I'll set their velocity to -3, moving to the left. If I'm holding the D key down and the right is less than 400, meaning I'm not off the right side of the screen, I'll set their velocity to 3. And otherwise, just to be safe, I'm setting the velocity back to 0. I do the exact same thing here, just with the left and right arrow keys. So now I can move A and D for WASD, or the left or right arrow keys. And then I just do a little on key release. If I release the A or the D key, we're just going to make sure double check. Hey, we're resetting the velocity to 0. Same thing with the left or right keys, resetting the velocity to 0. That's just getting it so when I press the buttons, my character moves. And now, very nicely, we have 0 comments here. So let's explain it. Maybe comment it out. We have our custom shoot function that we made. It's going to take in an origin x and y, so an origin coordinate that it's shooting from, and then a target coordinate that it's shooting to, a target x and y coordinate. In here, and maybe I shouldn't really have this in my shoot function. This should probably be, if we're being a little smarter about it, up here when I call the shoot function, because it's not always the tower that necessarily is shooting from the shoot function. So let's put that there. Though I guess we have to come back here now and explain what the shoot count 0 is. Okay, so right. Let's come back here before looking at the shoot function again. Player, right? All this over here is saying, hey, if the player is close enough to the tower, we want to shoot. But we also want to make sure that the tower is ready to shoot again. So we're checking if the shoot count's greater than 100. And now once we have both of those going, we're going to shoot at the player, and we're going to set the shoot count back down to 0. So what this will do now is the shoot count is 0. Every frame, it is going up by 1, but because I have this and shoot count greater than 100, I will not start shooting again until the shoot count is greater than 100, meaning that it'll shoot once, set the shoot count to 0, and then it will not shoot again. It will not do the shoot function again until the shoot count has got sufficiently large enough. And again, so you now also see, well, it starts at 0, so it's at 0. You know, every time I step through, I'm not resetting until I get to that point where it's time to reset again and we can shoot again. And if I wanted to be actually, maybe all I need to do here, I can have it reset at 100, and then I can have it wait a couple moments. Maybe it'll shoot again at 150. And so now it'll, reset at 100, wait a little bit longer, and then shoot again. So it's not just spawning and going immediately like we saw before. Let's test that out before we go over the shoot function, make sure I didn't break anything. So it'll shoot immediately as I go into range, but then now it'll reset, wait a moment, and then shoot again. Yeah, I kind of like that. Maybe it's a little waiting too long before it shoots again, but that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool that we have just the difference between those two is how long it will wait. All right, so that's neat. Here, look, you saw me doing some live fixing like I said I wouldn't do at the start of the video. So there it is. That's how all that works, right? So the timing of the shoot, the resetting it, and all that other stuff. Now we got to actually figure out, wait, how does it know to target us? And that's where that angle to and get point and direction goes. Whoops. Okay. So this is super cool. Using this for, as a shoot function or just in general to make things go is, I think, super valuable. Anytime you're gonna have something shoot at something or bounce off of something else, this is what I'm seeing as like a pretty go-to way of making that happen. So first we're going to start with, all right, I'm shooting from an origin to a target. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the angle from that origin to that target. So now at the origin, pointing down towards that target. So I've got an angle pointing towards that target. I said that about 8 times. You get it? Angle from the origin, pointing at a target. Then what we do is get point in direction, and I'm going to, from that origin, at the direction I was pointing, get a new point a distance of 5 away from this. And now here's where the magic happens. I now have a point 5 away from my Eye of Sauron. Hey, I want to pause this. Well, now I want to wait for it to reset. Pause it in time. I paused it. Okay. Okay. Now we've got, right? It's in range. It's got the direction pointing. That's got that vector, that line from the Eye of Sauron pointing at our player. And we're going to get a point a distance of 5 from here, 5 along that line. And we're going to use that to generate a new speed that I want the bullet to be going at. To get that speed, I'm going to start with, and play around with this. If you do the X and then, you do like the new point at the origin and it's going the wrong direction, just flip them and it'll take care of business. But so I'm going to get a new speed that'll say, hey, my X speed, I want to be going this speed between the origin X and that new point X. I want to be going at this speed between those. And the Y, same sort of idea. And it's just kind of magical that it's like, hey, I'm getting a Y distance that I'm going to equate to a new speed that I'm setting for that bullet. Sorry, an X distance that I'm going to equate as a new X speed for that bullet. A Y distance that I'm going to equate as a Y speed for that bullet. And as long as I keep the same origin and then using that same X and Y from that game get point direction, it's going to be shooting at a speed along that line that we got. And the cool thing here is this distance gets to set the power or the speed at which we're going to shoot that. So 5, it's moving at that speed. If I increase this to 10, now when I shoot, it's going to shoot twice as fast, I believe. It'll shoot the bullet a bunch faster. It's going to reset, wait, shoot it a bunch faster in a moment. Ah! Okay. If I want it to go a lot slower, I can just say, all right, I'm going to go a power of 3. And now, if I move into range, it's going to shoot a lot slower. I could do whatever kind of power I want, whatever speed I want. I could maybe go a speed of like 0.5, and now it's going to shoot very, very slow. It'll be like, super, super slow. You see that? Just like going so slow. I can dodge this all day. Wow, it actually goes so slow that it resets before it ever hits the player, which is a bit of an issue. If I was making a full game out of this, I'd have to be better about how I decide when it resets. Maybe when it's a certain distance away from its original starting point, as opposed to using time. But anyways, before we got to Unit 8, I did make my slime volleyball using all of 6, but you better believe that this next example video is going to be using this new shoot idea to make things bounce off, probably just by reversing the origin and the X, so that the origin's first and the other one's later, to make it bounce in the opposite direction. And just getting to use like this as your power multiplier is a super cool way. So even if you don't fully understand how it works, that's kind of the beautiful thing about programming is we got these little black boxes like get point in direction, angle 2. The function, like once you got the function working, you don't need to worry about why it works anymore. Just be like, I trust that I was smart enough to make this work. Of course, eventually you'll get some bugs and you have to go back and be like, all right, wait a minute, how does this actually work again? And it can work out. But yeah, made a little kind of like vector by getting the point in direction and, the origin to the vector. We're pointing over there, and we can change the size of the vector just by changing that distance from get point in direction, and that will control how powerfully I want to shoot this thing. So that's the solution to it. Even if you don't fully get it, at least you can use this code again. I give you my permission to use this code to make some really cool programs. Now, I don't give you permission to just copy this exact thing and make that a creative task. That's not cool. But if you're going to use this little helpful thing to, get something to aim and shoot at something, that's great. But make it look nicer. make it so that it's actually a thing where, like, you know, if the player gets hit, something happens, the player can respond in some way. Make a bigger game out of it using that idea. So yeah, that's the solution to our League of Legends tower shooter. So, you know, I think it's pretty cool. I think we made a pretty cool thing here. Hopefully you understood it. Leave some questions in the comments if you want me to elaborate on anything. I'm always happy to make more videos.